I need to bring it up for people to start preparing themselves for what is most likely one of the biggest lies that we've been told, and that is what space is all about. What is space? We know very little about space. All we know about space is what we learn from NASA and the space agencies that are all funded by the big money people and the global elite. And it has become very clear and very evident to me, and I have overwhelming evidence for this, not just from my own research, but from people I've spoken to as well, that space is not what we think it is.
One of the hopeful things about the work and the tours and the questions that people ask is, well, okay, so what can we do now? And the Anunnaki that are talking to me are very impressed with and surprised with what we're doing. So I remember when we inaugurated the healing circle on the lawn by the river, and they said, we suggested this as a possibility, but now that you've done this, and then we did those huge healing ceremonies in Blow-Bosh Corral, and they said, Blow-Bosh Corral was not intended as a healing circle. That is nothing that we ever intended. But the fact that you have taken this energy and the potential of this energy and the fact that it works above and that it works below, and you've harnessed this energy for a healing purpose, that's amazing. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another of the incredible Tellinger Talks with my good friend, Michael Tellinger. We're carrying on with all the incredible things that we have uncovered, semi-discovered, blown our minds with all of the stuff that's happening in the stone circles in South Africa. So welcome.
Jean-Paul, great to see you again.
Right.
Today, we're going to continue our journey of discovery, exploration, specifically focusing on your work, the shamanic downloads and exposés and revelations of your incredible work, your ability to connect to the spirits, the sight whisperers, the Anunnaki, the giants, and so much more. In different timelines across space and time, and that's really the exciting thing.
Yeah.
And I always when you tell me that we enter a stone circle or an ancient site or anywhere, and you get like these guys tapping on your shoulder or attracting your attention, trying to talk to you, and then you first have to analyze which timeline are you guys in? Are you like the 3,000 year ago, or 500 years ago, or 300,000 years ago? And you first have to figure out which timeline these beings are talking to you from. And that's a fascinating thing in itself. So I think we want to continue the discussion with the genetic cloning and research in the genetic stone circle, or as we've come to call it, the Welk Circle, the Anunnaki research facility. We've gone into quite a bit of detail there already. And see where this journey takes us. Let's just go free form here, and I'll give it to you. Take it away.
Yeah. So I guess one of the things to kind of share and explain is that when this happens, I sort of, I put out an intention. So we walk into a circle and we're saying we want to know more about this circle. So that can be a bit generic of a statement. So sometimes I get someone that shows up that's happy to share something, but it doesn't connect exactly to what we heard before. And quite often it's someone that just is working there. And the timeline is a very confusing thing. So they don't understand our movement of time. We don't really understand how their cycles work in terms of what's a year, what's the equivalent of a year, because our year means nothing to them. They have no concept of what our year is. Because remember, I'm not talking to like an omniscient spirit guide or something. I'm talking to the dude that was there. So this is an Anunnaki who occupied this space that we're standing in some other time. So they only know what they know. So sometimes we have to say, are you during the Enki period? Are you after the Enki period? Are you here when the gold extraction was happening? Are you, so it's fascinating to see that there were so many expeditions over what I think for us is hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, it certainly feels like it. And do you recall ever meeting somebody that's a bit confused by your presence?
Only at Homesick Hill. At Homesick Hill,
yes.
So we should explain. Near these two circles, there's another hill that's quite a distance away, and there are some very large stones that ring with an incredibly deep tone. It sounds like you're hearing Big Ben or something. It's an incredibly beautiful deep tone, and there's there's about, well, we found, I think, 4 of these large stones that are suspended on little tripods and things. And when you tap them, they're just this beautiful, deep resonance. And it was explained that we call that Homesick Hill. And that was kind of the place where the Anunnaki that were working would go and sort of chill out and hang out, because they would feel homesick and they would long for life back on their planet and the way it was. So they would just gather and just relax on this hill. And this particular frequency is a frequency that calms the heart. So they would have this tone and they would calm and relax. So it was like, if you would imagine if there was such a thing as the staff lounge room or the staff room for the Anunnaki, this was kind of it. This was like the little chill out zone. So sometimes I would be there and I would get odd looks. They would look at like, who's that? And, so from what I understand from other sight whisperings, I look as much like a cloudy vision to them as they look to me. So they kind of see this kind of, like when you see heat, that ripple of heat radiating off something, that's kind of, I look more formless to them, but that's kind of what they look like to me. So that's the closest I've gotten to people kind of going. And I remember at one point, somebody was up on Homesick Hill with me, and we were talking to one of the assistant engineers from one of the ships. Oh, that's right. It was Brant. And he was really curious about jet propulsion and how they traveled and how does the ship move and what do they use for fuel. And so the people that we were talking to said, sorry, not our field. We're the water people. We were dealing with the water stuff. But look, head back to Homesick Hill and I'll see if I can get one of the engineers to come down and talk to you. So we hiked to Homesick Hill and we sat down, and there was this young assistant engineer who said, I think you're waiting for me. So that's the closest I know to them actually noticing me in any way like that.
And do you recall what he told you about the propulsion and the energy? Do you recall it, or would you have to refer to your notes?
I can recall some of it. The things that were astounding were they do not travel any way close to jet propulsion or fuel or anything like that. It's frequency. So they explain a couple of principles. So you'll have to chime in here because your science is way better than mine. So they said that frequencies stack up, and you can have a bandwidth that has a whole bunch of frequencies. And there are little spaces in between those frequencies. So there's this frequency and then this frequency. And in that edge between the two is where you can slip yourself in and you can travel. And they hold you together. So if you can find...
Yeah, that's good. That's exactly. That would be what one could probably compare that. The best comparison would that be to like a standing pressure wave. A standing wave create in our area here, in the air around us. People watch the examples of levitation on YouTube. You go there and see people levitating little polystyrene items and little droplets of water and levitate those. And that you do by creating sounds and where the waves cross over, you create a pressure wave and a standing wave, and it's really the pressure wave differentiation that traps that object in that area.
Oh.
So it sounds to me like that's what they were trying to explain to you, but on a much more advanced level. The problem we have with the sound frequencies that we use in showing how sound can levitate things is that you can't levitate heavy objects because the amount of energy you need to create to levitate heavy objects increases, and we don't have the capacity to do that. They're not using sound; they're using frequency itself, and possibly hypersound. Not possibly, most absolutely, definitely hypersound. So sound that moves beyond the speed of light. It's the energized form source of sound that is resonance itself. And obviously has a toroidal field nature, which they all have. So it goes into the much more advanced understanding of sound. So it's great. I can't recall you ever mentioning this to me before. So it's great. You see, going back and revisiting these because we've not really done this before.
No.
So we need to do it in more detail. And